Okay, if you could start out with your name, where you are from, and your age.
My name's Lyndall Book, and I'm from the Ina area, a small town called Spring Garden, and I am 73 years old.
Okay. How old were you? Were in the 60s, and were you living around here?
Yes, I was born in 46, so in the 60s I'd been 14, or starting in the 60s I've been 14. 1960s year I graduated from grade school. Ina grade school.
What were you doing during the years of 1960 to 70? So just starting high school?
Yeah. Graduated from Mount Vernon High School in 64. Went to Mount Vernon Community College, which later became Wren Lake College.
Oh.
And went there 2 years, and then I started work.
Was the Mount Vernon High School in the location where the old one was?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That was really old high school.
Yeah, and the old, the B building was the college building.
Oh.
In the early days of the college, it was on the other side of the street. There's just one little building there, had 4 rooms downstairs and 4 rooms upstairs, and that was the college.
Pretty small.
Yeah, it was, compared to what it is now.
Yeah. Can you describe the types of clothes that you wore, or how they've changed, like the style from now?
Back then, the higher society people wore Levi's. And there was only one place in Mount Vernon you could buy Levi's. That was J.V. Walker's up on the square. And a pair of Levi's cost $4. Back then, the Levi's, you bought them way bigger than what you actually wore, and they shrunk the first time you washed them.
Oh.
Back then, I wore a 34 length, and now, all these years later, I wear a 30.
Do you have any memories of the civil rights movement?
Not a whole lot. I didn't pay a lot of attention to stuff like that.
So was it really peaceful or quiet around the Mount Vernon area?
Yes.
Okay.
The race problem at the high school there was none there.
Was it fairly mixed, like the races?
Well, the black, there weren't near as many as what there are now.
Yeah.
Like in my graduating class of the boys,
Mhm.
I think there were 6 black boys.
But they were all nice and
We
got
got along, and when you looked at them, you didn't see color, you just saw the guys.
Were you aware of the Vietnam War?
Yes.
Do you have any memories of it, or of propaganda?
Well, I had a cousin that got drafted into the Marines. He was one of the unlucky ones, and he served in Vietnam. And we wrote to him a few times, not very many, but I remember watching television one night, sitting on the floor, and I wasn't familiar with that area over there, but a bunch of our troops had got ambushed over there or something, and to me it sounded like where he was at. And I remember sitting on the floor crying. When you signed up, or when you were sent overseas, I guess, I don't know, but anyway, you put down a name of somebody to come home with your body if you got killed. And he, one of his close buddies that was close to him, he was in a deal. He was the 4th one back that stepped on a mine, or one of the guys in front of him did. But anyway, well, that's not the same time though, that was later. But he did accompany the body home of one of his soldiers. It was he lived in Michigan. And my uncle and aunt, his parents, when he notified them that he was going to be in Michigan, my uncle just nodded his head like that and said, "Let's go." And they went to see him in Michigan, and between the time that they saw Sam in Michigan, he died. That was the last time Sam seen his dad. He made a special trip to Michigan to see him when he accompanied the body home. Guys my age, that's the prime Vietnam era guys. And I know a lot of guys that was over there. I just lost a good friend 3 or 4 weeks ago
I'm sorry.
that was over there. And more than likely, the illness he had was caused from Agent Orange and all that kind of stuff. The guys that's my age who are now in their early 70s, a lot of those that was exposed to stuff over there, it's just now catching up.
Yeah. What memories do you have of President Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon?
The main memory I have of Kennedy, I don't know if they still have in high school or not, but you used to have the morning of announcements. They'd give the announcements over the intercom to everybody. Well, when Kennedy first got shot, I think it was before noon that he got shot, and of course they hadn't announced yet that he died. And the principal, I guess that's what you call him, come over the speaker and said the president had been shot. And then in about the 5th hour, right after dinner, the announcement thing come on again, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, a great tragedy has just struck our nation. The President of the United States is dead. And that's how we heard about it. And then, of course, for days they had all that stuff on television. You said Kennedy and who else?
Johnson and Nixon.
Well, Johnson was put in to take, he was, what do you call it when they take the oath to be the president?
Being sworn in.
That would happen on the plane. While he was en route from, I don't know, he lived in Texas, I think, but I don't know if that was somewhere between there and Washington, D.C., I guess. He was sworn in as president on the plane. The one thing I remember about Johnson, he was president when Medicare was started. And Medicare has been a savior to poor people. Like I got a bill this in the mail the other day, $26,000. I forgot what it was.
That's on one thing.
And Medicare took care of it. If I'd had to pay that myself, I'd have been ruined. I was in the hospital at Deaconess at Evansville for 5 days, and all that stuff just added up. Probably in a year's time,
100,000.
I cost Medicare probably at least $80,000 or $90,000, and that would totally been out of reach for poor people. And Nixon, about all I remember about him was he was a crook.
Yeah.
And they
Watergate.
We just learned about
they
that.
they was gonna impeach him, and he saved them that doing that. He resigned.
Yep. And do you remember anything about the assassinations of Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr.?
Well, I just hit on Kennedy there a little bit a while ago. They're still, you see these documentaries and stuff, they're still trying to determine if there was more than one person shooting at him. And some of the evidence says there is. I don't really think there was. But Robert Kennedy, I don't really remember a whole lot about him. It doesn't really, I didn't really ever thought a whole lot about it. It's just, and Martin Luther King, I won't comment much about him. I guess he was the beginning of a lot of stuff, but the way he went about it wasn't a good way to do it. I'll just say that.
What do you remember about the moon landing in 1969?
Well, probably at the time, you knew quite a bit, and then after that, there've been so many space trips, you kind of just get them all mixed up.
Yeah.
Small step for man.
Yeah.
What's
One
that?
giant leap for mankind.
Yeah.
How do you feel about conspiracy theories saying that the moon landing was fake?
Well, I don't think it was, but there was actually people that thought, because on the television they would put a simulation up there
Mm-hmm.
of what it was like. And a lot of people thought
Oh, that was the real thing.
that it didn't really happen, that they just showed it all as a simulation. I believe it happened.
How is Mount Vernon different today than it was back then?
Okay, when you started out West Broadway, after you got out about,
Oakland
it
Cemetery.
wasn't even that far.
Medicine shop.
You got just a
Probably
few
split.
blocks from the square. Everything from there on was just residential houses.
Were the interstates still there?
No, the interstate wasn't built yet.
Oh, wow.
And they were all residential houses back then, and then they started moving on out to the west, and
What lessons did you learn having lived through the 60s?
well, well, I went to work when I was young, and I worked up till we got married in '69, and from then on is just hard work and keep your nose to the grindstone.
When you hear the words 1960, do any pictures or images come to mind?
Well, just the graduation from grade school and high school.
Do you have any other interesting stories or experiences that you would like to share?
Well, offhand, I can't think of anything. But what blows your mind about that then compared to now is the prices of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Gasoline.
when I graduated from high school in '64, I'd probably have to go get a yearbook to hunt it up, but you could buy a new car, a good car, for like $3,000. If you had a couple bucks, you could go to the station and buy 2 gallons of gas and drive, or $2 worth of gas and drive around all night. But you know, you could, nobody, well, I guess some people did, most all of us, we didn't have no money, but you go out Rebens and buy hamburgers 6 for $1.
Ooh. That's a lot.
I don't know, high school kids used to go over there. But I used to, my parents gave me $2 a week for lunch. If you be real conservative through the week, then on Friday you'd have an extra dime to buy an extra soda.
Are you aware of the song, like, The Summer of '69?
Not really.
There's a song that just, like, reminisces on the summer of '69. Do you remember anything about that summer? Anything special about it?
69, that would have been, the summer before we got married in October. I don't really remember
That's been a few
anything.
beers back.